this computer. All right, here's what we're going to share for our music for the day. And then when we come back, we'll get started and tell you what our topic is all about today. So here we go. All right, so Tim, tell us why that video is so special and why we should all be very grateful to have witnessed that. Are you with us, Tim? Oh, we can't hear you. You're muted. Unmute.
There you go. How's that? It's all right. I was choked up anyway. It's gonna be, that's my friend Kate. Our good friends, that's their daughter Kate. And Kate has cystic fibrosis, which is a pulmonary disease. And since she has been an infant, she's had to do those nebulizers and breathing treatments. And during this time, she's specifically just on total lockdown, just for her own health and safety. So she's teaching herself the piano. And I kid you not, her dad plays her a song. She'll listen to it, and then she goes and sings a song. Whatever song it is. And this one she wanted to play for us because it's Don't Stop Believing. So I think that's our theme for this week. It's what we're going to do because we are on a roller coaster together, and I'm going to believe and believe and believe. So I applaud Kate. She's doing such a great job. She's a very special person in our lives, and we just love her. So I'm glad she can participate with all you guys today too.
Well, I'm glad that you shared that, Tim, because we had a whole bunch of suggestions and people with really funny songs, ironic songs. My favorite was "I Want a New Drug" by Huey Lewis, but this one was one that was hopeful. You know, it actually had something very beautiful and hopeful in it, and we immediately thought, oh, we got to do this. We're not just gonna be cheeky or maybe make fun of the situation we're in. Let's actually share something positive and encouraging. So
yeah, at one point I was thinking Wilson from Ant Food could make an original composition, but I think we have it won now. I think Kate's going to beat everybody, original or not.
That's right. Hey, I also want to welcome our other co-host with us today, Mr. Marcel Ziul, coming in from Los Angeles. So Marcel, say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone. Well, happy Monday, you know. Being positive here. I mean, I went outside. That's why I was a little late, because I was like, I need to feel the sunlight a little bit, you know, on my skin, because it feels like you're like in a bunker now, you know, so you don't want to get out. You're like, hey, am I going to get the virus if I go in my backyard? No, it's fine.
Hey, Marcel, I saw a video of someone skateboarding through Los Angeles, and there's like nothing. There's nothing at all. Is that really how it is? Like
that video is from 2016. It won
okay.
Awards.
Yeah, well, that's really good then.
Man, I felt like everyone was already, you know, just being inside and everything. And then today I look at the news, and there was a lot of people at the beach yesterday. I was so mad. I'm like, I hate you guys, you know. Everyone's at the beach, hiking and stuff. I'm like, are you guys kidding me, you know? But, you know, just going out a little bit feels great.
Yeah, it does.
Well, I hope everyone had a good weekend despite the circumstances and wasn't too pegged to the news constantly. Tim, you and I got off this week to a bang already with a couple calls with people that took us up on our offer to do a one-on-one call with them, walk through their particular situation. And it's super relevant to this topic, right? I'm going to share my screen real quick so everyone can see. what we're talking about today. Because we got on a call with some guys that run a production company, and they're scrambling, right? They're in this live action space. And just you going through the simplicity of what are some of the fundamentals, and one of them being your cash flow. Like, look at this thing every day, and you being able to build them a new simple cash flow report in real time. They were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I thought what we had was a cash flow, but this thing is not, this old thing is not working. So today we said this is a perfect opportunity for us to get on the live stream and talk about some of the fundamentals. And before we do that, of course, we should share some announcements. So what's the first announcement that you wanted to share, Tim?
Well, I honestly don't care about any other announcements. The one inside of this house right now is we're having a wedding. We are doing it for real. It's happening Wednesday afternoon at my house. I'm glad these kids got this thing figured out. We are not waiting. We're not waiting for anything else. We're going to get them married and ship them off. So,
and this is your way of saying, and everyone is not invited.
You're not invited at all. So I'll do the live stream, and then I am off to the wedding. Nuptials are happening in my house.
Well,
no,
good
but seriously, yeah, thank you.
Congrats to your kids, and I know the big changes and all the drama of this have totally upended their lives. So we're glad to hear that your family is proceeding off with life as usual. That there are weddings and all these other important rituals that we do as families. So good for you guys.
Thank you. And then there are a few other announcements. We do have the Slack channel up and going. I made a new channel called Replays. So anyone that's missing these videos, they have a chance to go into the Slack channel and see the old ones. We'll just keep adding those day by day and get that through. A good friend of ours is going to put together a little broadcast package for us too. So you might even see a little bit of a facelift on these videos in the next couple of days as we get that rolled out.
Love that. One other quick announcement. A bunch of you reached out to me after the Thursday live stream and said, hey, I would love to watch that free module that I offered to give away, which is setting up your sales pipeline. Here, I'll show my screen. So I decided I'm just going to go ahead and share this in our live stream. So later this week, if I can get my act together and get this done, I'll just walk you guys through this. And this module is going to be great because we talk about, in a time like this, going back to fundamentals like a sales pipeline is going to be really effective for all of you. And I'm a big believer in that. So just stay tuned. Or the people here in the live stream, we will share the date and time for that. It might be during the live stream. It might be just after the live stream, but we'll get that figured out and make sure that everyone benefits from that, because now's the time to make sure that you're, shall we say, having conversations at scale and making sure that you're helping as many people as possible. Okay, Tim, let's get into the topic. So you and Marcel were talking earlier today, and then of course it dovetailed into this conversation that you had with these production company owners about their cash flow and so forth. What's actually going on? Give us the bigger principle, the bigger idea that if we're in this crisis, if we're trying our best to not just hover over the news, but we also know that we have this lizard brain, right? Our limbic brains that have this fight or flight and all this stuff going on inside of us. How does that affect our decision making? How do we gain a broader perspective? And then Marcel, I really want to hear from you on the practical side. What are some suggestions of what we do with that? How do we actually move forward?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks for the setup. Joel's right. What happens inside of a time of crisis is that the center of our brain that focuses on survival kicks in. And that lower brain, they call it, or the lizard brain, really has the ability to hijack all the rest of the brain's ability to function and do its parts. That brain creates one of three results. It helps you basically freeze. So think like a deer in headlights. You're just stuck. You don't move at all. You run, so you fly, like flight, just get out of there as fast as possible, or you sit back and you fight. Like you're gonna, like a cornered dog getting out, fighting his way out of the corner. That center right there is what most of us were experiencing last week, and maybe even experience now. Like we're in constant panic mode and wondering, we have these little questions we keep asking ourselves over and over and over again. And it really keeps us in that brain. What isn't happening then is the analytical brain, the optimistic brain, the big thought process, and the creative brain doesn't get kick in. What's really interesting about a creative entrepreneur is that same fight or flight mechanism inside the brain is also the one that we often we use to chase down the creative leads. That's why we get a sense of an aha moment when we find that right creative energy that fits the project. So really, I feel like we depend on that part of our brain a lot. And when something like a crisis like this kicks us in, it's so enhanced because we live there so often. And the other part, the big picture stuff, is totally knocked out. So today we thought we'd like process through like, what are some ways of thinking through and the practice of getting out of that small myopic brain into bigger thoughts. And Marcel, you're ones that's facing this constantly. This isn't the only crisis you've gone through, right?
Not really, man. I come from a country that it's like, you know, I've seen my dad going through a crisis in 1997 back in Brazil when we changed our currency. You know, so we went from the currency, it was called Cruzeiro, and then it went to Real. And then that changed. A lot of business owners lost their businesses, you know, because all of a sudden everything changed. So you had a lot of money, and then all of a sudden you had no money. So there was a lot of changes back in the day. So I was still a teenager at the time, but I saw things happening and how to react to it. And maybe that's why my discipline is a little bit chaotic. You know, I'm intense, and I'm always like worried. I always think that things will go down, you know, even if it's like crazy. I'm always in this mode that something bad's going to happen. Let's make sure that we all have control. But yeah, so there's a lot of solutions that I've been thinking, and like, instead of reacting to a crisis, I'm actually trying to think of like, what kind of assets and what kind of knowledge that I already have, and like, how can I put that in place, you know, even more.
Yeah. So what I heard this quote earlier today. It went something like this: 100% of all of your worst days that you've experienced are already behind you. And I love that thought. It's like, it's the thought of two things: of you've had bad days before, and you've gone beyond them. You persevered beyond those bad days. They're behind you. It's also an optimistic view of what to look forward ahead. That it's not that you won't experience other more critical days and other types of uncertainty, but really you have a mechanism that you've already exercised in the past. And if we can remember what it was like then, maybe we can recall that now and know that we will be okay. And there's greater things to come. Kids will get married eventually, you know, like whatever that thing is that's on our plate.
Yeah.
And as a business owner, you and I both know, like, honestly, some of this crisis, it might just be you and your company. Right now, it's everyone's. We have a shared crisis we're experiencing, but often business owners have crisis within their company or within their own ownership. You know, Joel and I make a living, so we know it's true about people in those crises. So for you, like, you have certain mechanisms you've kicked in before. Give me an example of a time of crisis, or maybe too specific, but something that you've dealt with before, and one example of how you got yourself out of it.
Yeah. So first off, it's a moment now that we're all talking about, like, a crisis that it's happening in the whole world, right? So everyone is feeling the same. So I don't think it's the business owner should be in the mode that it's like, oh, it's my problem. You know, I need to solve this by myself. So the first thing you got to do is to just work with your team, you know, and make them accountable too, because it's like, it's everyone's problem at this point. So we're all together in this, and we should be talking to them even more. You know, I was kicking this idea around with you and Joe earlier today about it's different habits, but using the same knowledge you already have. Because, for example, we know already as business owners, even like to cut costs, right? So we're like, oh, we're spending too much here and there. So you know what you have to do. You know how you have to analyze stuff. But now it's just that you need to be more precise, and you need to share that information a little more and get some input, because you know, especially because working from home, that creates this thing that the world is all here, you know, in this room. And it's like, this is where the ideas come from. It's like everyone needs to work together.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm wondering too, I would just ask this, Marcel, too, is the rhythm differently as well? Because part of what I'm hearing you say is that some of those questions you're asking daily that you might otherwise normally be asking those weekly or monthly.
Yeah, I can give you an example. Like, and then I said that like maybe like on Friday. If there is something that creatives hate it is like when you talk about numbers, because we creatives are always thinking about how to make that project awesome, right? We wanted to get exposure and that and make sure that the project is amazing and everyone talks about it and everyone posts about it, And when you bring a creative into a reality of like finance, creatives always like, they hate it, I hate it, when I have to talk to.
It takes a little bit of convincing. I agree.
It's like Thais keeps saying, she's like, I need time with you so we can talk about finance. I'm like, she goes, yeah. I'm like, that's fine. But she's like, no, I need to talk to you. I'm like, okay, let's talk. So we're always trying to avoid that kind of habit of checking everything. And talking to one of my best friends over the weekend, and then he goes, Marcel, you more than ever, the whole, every business should be checking their finances on a daily basis. Every day, go back there, check, look at it again, look at it from another angle, just take a look of like, decisions that you can make. I feel like now it's about time of like stretching, what you can do to stretch even more, to keep going. Of course, not only taking cash as a base, but also like relationships and stuff. So I thought it was I thought about like, I already have this knowledge, it's just a matter of like applying that on a daily basis or like maybe on a weekly basis, but like, more consistency.
And let's talk about that because there are certain things I believe that you should be up to date on a daily basis. And then my belief is something like cash flow, you should only do once a week. It's like a heartbeat. You want it to be good, you want it to be solid, and you want it to be regular. So if you're doing it every day, it's like trying to make your heart race, and not much should change from moment to moment or day to day. If you can build yourself out a schedule and look at that cash flow on a week by week basis, you can make a lot of really good decisions at one time and then wait 7 days and then see and respond again. The items I would look at on a daily basis might be project time and percentage of project completed, so that I know, hey, the money I'm spending as a business owner, is it getting me the results I need? And especially now, like the margin of error is really, really narrow for a lot of business owners. They honestly have to be running more efficient than they started a project. So how can I gear back the costs of my project 5, 10, 15% than what it's been since I started the project? That's something you can look at on a daily basis to see if you're making progress, because that's where you can be encouraging to your employees. You can be analytical and thoughtful to it. You can actually help solve those problems as a business owner and a creative, because you can have big picture ideas and recognize this is finished. We're good. That's good enough. Hey, this can be finished at this point. I can make different decisions and get this out the door at a sooner time. So puts the effort right back into your hands and allows for a very positive and constructive conversation. Those are the ones you want to have on a daily basis, the ones that are building up your team, giving the right resources in place.
Yeah, and that's probably part of the, when I say daily basis to me, Tim, it's more like kicking myself, in the ass a little bit, say, hey, check that, check it. Even if you don't check today, check tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow comes and then you had like 10 meetings, 22 Zoom calls and everything. And then you're like, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. But then at least create the discipline of checking,
Right. I like what you're saying too, is like, don't put off till tomorrow what you should do today. That's another way to say it. So how about this one? Pick your battles, Marcel. That's the other piece of advice. What would that look like? Choosing the important items over the unimportant items. Give us an example there.
Yeah, I would say like choose your battles is pretty much in my point of view, is like, I feel like at this point, I love the Mind Node. If you guys don't have it, please download. And I use that for me a lot. So it's a software that you can install on Mac so you can map your brain. So it's a brain map. So to me, I use that a lot in terms of like, I don't take decisions only for, because of cash. I make decisions based on like, what's about the state's mission, what are we trying to accomplish. So picking your battles is like some stuff. It's not, I try to not be so picky about like little things. I'm trying to see the bigger picture now, and again, I'm trying to combine everything, into one channel only. So for example, to me now, it's a point of like how much a business can stretch, but not stretch just with cash, because I can get, let's say I can get rid of all my staff now, like let's say I get rid of all my staff and then I survive for the next 2 years. Good. And then what?
You have no company, right? Yeah. It's worthless to do that. Yeah.
And also we got to think, what we need to think is, at some point this will be over, and then maybe that would be the new normal, but we need to be ready for that. And those people that, I had a mentor back in the day that he used to say, all you have to do is create relationships. So picking your battles is about like analyzing these relationships, especially with your staff and like even like with your favorite freelancers too, but understanding that relationship and see how much, pick your battles in terms of like, okay, I'll let this person go, but is it really going to get me that far, or if I keep this person here, this person can think about the problem with me. So it's like two brilliant brains working together, try to find more answers. So I feel like that's the real stretch to me, when
you don't have to only pick the battles when it comes to the resources. Like you don't have to just analyze the resources to figure out who's on the boat and who's off. What I've been working with a lot of the conversations I've been having is there are certain projects that if you put in a certain amount of effort, so pick your battles, you can deliver that sooner and it kind of gets it off your plate. Or you can rearrange some of the deliverables to a later date and let you utilize your staff over freelancers in a different way. So that to me is like picking the battles of like, sometimes I think of it as like a pizza in the slices or pizza in the layers. You can look at it as elements and pieces or the whole composite. You should be processing it both ways, even reverse engineering it. The conversation I had this morning with one of my clients was a project was paused and they were asking a question, should we keep a small staff going? But they actually don't know the deadline. And I said, absolutely not. Don't do that, because you don't know how big the hole is that you're filling. Yeah. If you know when the deadline is, you always work your way back to figure out the right way to spend the resources. But if you do this slow drip forever, it will just run you dry. So there is these parts of picking the battle. I also think having conversations with the client to find out what their priorities are, working alongside them, being very proactive. It definitely, without a doubt, with total confirmation, a lot of live action work is going towards animation. Yeah. There's a big picture reason why that's happening, but that whole workload and that shift, there's an economy taking place. Now there's a brand new economy of exchange, and we want to be able to work back and forth within that new economy. So that workload and that pressure and that process that you're going to be part of now, choose your battles. Pick which ones are worth fighting and will get some results, and which ones is just not worth it anymore. You can kind of let them go. Go ahead, Joel.
Yeah,
I just know we're gonna hit our half-hour limit here pretty quickly. So I just want to comment and say, anyone that has a comment, a question, something, please drop it in the chat here, or use that Q&A tool so we can get to you. Obviously, we'll linger here for a few more minutes, but I know a lot of folks are here for the half hour and then they have to move on to a call or a meeting or something. But Marcel, what were you gonna say there?
No, I was going to say that this is like, picking your battles is it's important, but just to add to that, it's like, that I really want people to think about, like, it's not just you trying to figure this out, don't think that you need to be the hero now, just you. It's like, you need more brains. That's what I'm saying. You need to put together your team, like that you built, your staff, or maybe if it's a small studio, maybe it's like 2 people, just the 2 of you or the 3 of you, just get together, talk about it, maybe, brainstorm ideas. And I wanted to throw like a topic here for tomorrow. Maybe it's like, I'd love to reach out. topic, because now everyone is like reaching out to clients like, hey, I'm here. Everyone now is remote and it's able to do whatever from home, right? Like the whole world now is remote. We're all remote. We've always been since last week. So it's
that's fun. We could do that tomorrow. We'll take on that tomorrow.
Yeah.
If let's turn the table over now to questions that we have, or even suggestions that others might have of things to focus on or battles to pick. Joel, you said there's a hand raised.
Yeah, there's a hand raised from Hobie. Let me get you here into chat. Can you hear us, Hobie? Are you going to, allowed to talk? Hang on. All right, now can you talk with us there, Hobie? Maybe unmute. Can you hear us now, Hobie?
There we go. I can hear you.
Hello, guys. How are you? I'm Hobie again with SensePoint. Great meetings, great content. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you got it, man. That's great. Thank you. What's on your mind? What's your question today?
The question that I have is really having to do with sort of twofold, with planning for the future and with just sort of how to reach out. So planning for the future. I've spent the whole time, really trying to figure out, okay, what is going to be the best way for us to move forward? As you remember, our clients are mainly food and drink and tourism and hospitality. So the other question is just like, are we ready to plan for the future, or should we let this thing run its course and then really start to see where we end up and where the chips fall? And the question about sales, I was hoping to reach out to clients, top clients and top targets, and just say, hey, let's just have a conversation about these times, where they get to listen, basically, or they get to talk, basically, and we listen. And inevitably, business opportunities and future business comes up. But what do you think should be the strategy on those? Do you think that's a good idea or kind of a dangerous one?
Well, I'll touch the first one there, Tim, and then you can
sure, go for it.
The second one. I use the word sales with a certain amount of trepidation, because most creative people hear the word sales and they kind of cringe and they think, oh God, don't make a sales call. And I would agree. I think you're much better off. I call it sales because it's one of the 7 ingredients. It's how we generate new business and opportunities, right? Yeah. So sales is just a word, but I would say no, in this time you should not be selling. I'll just put it that simply. But reaching out and empathizing and just having conversations called, how are you doing and how can I help you? How can I make your day better? How can I make you sleep better at night? I think that's always a good conversation to have. But Tim, I'll let you answer the other question, you and Marcel.
To piggyback on that too, I think if your sales tactic is very salesy, I think it might be too soon. I do have this gut feeling that something's going to happen this week, and we're going to have some sense of when this is over. And at that point, we can start backfilling projects. So just kind of wait for that moment. Yeah. But that being said, if you're talking specifically or strategically to someone or there's a good outreach, I'd say have those conversations all the time. Yeah. Hobie, this is the kind of advice I've been thinking is we often have these limiting beliefs. So think of that example of something like, I tried everything and it's not working. Yeah. That statement by itself just limits us to what we're capable of doing and processing and thinking through. So for me, like my hope or optimism that comes out of it, besides, I don't want you to just sit back and wait and let this thing, quote unquote, play out. There's something playing out right now, and it's a wave that you can ride. We might not understand all of it, and we might not be able to participate 100% the way we want to, but there is something great that is coming out of this. And that's where I want you to be riding this wave. And so the limiting thought of it's going to be taken care of and then we'll get back to normal, I would want to remove that part of it and recognize that the opportunity for resilience here and to persevere and push through is what's going to make you stronger. So jump in and take those risks, I think. Yeah. Or be challenged at this moment and start reading and diving in and pushing through and asking questions, because that's what you're going to build up as a resource in the future, so that whatever uncertainty is in the future, it can't be as bad as it is now, and you can push your way through that as well.
Yeah, so my 2 cents on that, it's a great question. my 2 cents on that is about understanding the problem, before you offer the right solution. Because most of us is like, I've been seeing so many posts on LinkedIn, and I've been getting a lot of emails that everyone is like remote and ready to do things and all of that. To me, it's like, are you really understanding what kind of problems your clients are having? Your top clients, like, maybe some of the clients are like, oh, I'm having problems now. Let's say on a network side, it's like, creating content, with animation to be on this specific channel, but I don't even know what to do, and I don't even know how to use my staff team. So that conversation of understanding the problem, to me, it's more important than just like, being salesy and like trying to, sell right now. To me, now it's the time that we're all trying to understand what this is, what the problem is. And then it's like, okay, now we have the solve. So once you understand the problem, selling, and reaching out with solutions will be so much simpler.
Yeah. I was just going to say there's a really cool question that we'll probably get to tomorrow from PJ, so I'll read that in a second. Tim, tell me if you agree with this, to get back to Hobie. Maybe something to think about is we're not planning necessarily for the long term, but I would say this, it's always a good idea to have a plan, because it's really about the planning that requires the thinking in your brain. Meaning, I'm thinking of this old famous quote here from Eisenhower. I'm going to post it. That plans are worthless, but planning is everything. So the thinking that goes into making a long-term plan is actually valuable. The plan itself is just a piece of paper that you throw away and doesn't really mean much. But maybe there's something to be said for, here's our short-term plan. Let's do the thinking. What are we doing today, next week, next month? And then as you look even further into the future, that thinking is really the value.
Yeah, that's great, Joel. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for all of us out there. And in a way, I want to turn, maybe I'm the optimistic one because of the big day ahead of us, but there's something that I'm starting to understand more about this situation. And it feels very black and white, in that there are some companies that are absolutely thriving and busier than they've ever been and have work that they weren't expecting because of the shift. And the shift is also taking the projects away from other companies. And then those are you we've been working with for a while, that we've spread out your client base in such a way that those guerrilla clients or even guerrilla services aren't quite there. So we do know that many of you are in the situation where you're hurting and you're worrying and you're stressed out. And just like the guys we talked to today, Daniel, Ryan, and Grant, I could hear it in their voice that they were really trying to figure out how to put pieces together to see that future that we talk about, and be able to plan out the next 6 or 8 weeks with them so that they know what their runway is and get to the other side of it. Was it just a great use of the half hour we had together? We want to make sure everyone knows that we're available to help you think through and allow you to slow down. Joel, I think the analogy you used earlier today was, what did you say? Like, imagine coming across a car accident. Are we saying, yeah, but this is a good time to lose weight? And I'm like, hopefully that's not the way we're saying it. What we really want to do is what we really want to do is be able to come alongside you and say, okay, slow down. Let's just breathe. Let's just think, how's it going? What's your name? How's it, what's the process? And be able to just start building up that analytical side of you again. Because it feels like once we map out a few weeks, give people a runway and the objectives of trying to get to the other side of, many people can get to the proper side of their thought process and be able to get those ideas flowing again. And that's what we want to do at this point. I think that's the optimism we're looking for.
So let's do this. I've got 3 or 4 questions that I would love to actually save for tomorrow because they're kind of all related. One of them was PJ asking this question about how do we keep our teams motivated and maintain that optimism. And then Vance jumped in with this one asking about studio owners diverting resources to volunteering, which I thought, well, that's very cool and maybe related. And then Artie just dropped a question in the Q&A that's also related about the message you put out to clients and how to help. So maybe we should hold that for tomorrow because I want to stick to our half-hour frame here. And if we want to continue the conversation, obviously the 7 Ingredients Slack group is there for everyone who needs it. And just a reminder, Tim, I think we have a few slots still open. If people want to actually chat with us on the phone, we're happy to do that so we can get into some of the specific and nitty-gritty things. So we need to remember to put a link to that scheduling thing in Slack, wherever that link is.
Yeah, I'm looking at my calendar. I have like I could probably do 4 or 5 more this week if somebody wants to do it. Otherwise, we have to wait till next week. But I'll just say this: if you know for certain that there's something mission critical and you're worried in the moment, please tell me. And if those of you who have asked me to do something and I can push you back a couple of days to take care of those that are more mission critical, I'll kind of work that through. We did have quite a few responses, Joel and I worked through that list. So thank you all for reaching out and joining us and being part of it. We are filling up our day with half-hour slots.
All right, well, let's adjourn now. Tim, I don't know if I'm losing you or if it's my connection, but let's try and wrap up our half-hour slot here and say we'll see you in the 7 Ingredients Slack channel, or we'll see you tomorrow. And Marcel, please give us a high five and sign off from Los Angeles.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. And let's talk about all these questions tomorrow. I'm excited.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you all. Happy Monday.
Happy
We're
Monday.
gonna do it.
We'll see you next week. See you tomorrow, and see you in the Slack channel. Okay, bye everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Marcel. Thanks, Tim.